Jealousy isn't always loud. It's not always the dramatic outburst, the possessive grip, or the angry glare across a crowded room. Sometimes, jealousy whispers. It hides behind a smile. It pretends to be a joke, a shrug, a long pause between replies. Especially when it comes from a man who's emotionally attached, but too guarded to admit it. That's when jealousy becomes the most silent and the most revealing. You might think he doesn't care, that is indifferent to who you spend time with or what you post, that he barely notices when you dress up or mention someone new. But pay closer attention. Watch how his mood shifts when another guy's name slips into the conversation. Listen to how he jokes about being replaced. Notice how suddenly he wants to be around you more or start showing up in places you didn't expect to see him. These aren't accidents. They are not harmless quirks or random reactions. They are signs, hidden, subtle, quiet signs, that is feeling something deeper than he's ready to show. And when jealousy enters the picture, it's rarely about control. In emotionally invested men, it's about fear. Fear of losing you. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being replaced without a chance to speak his truth. That's why he won't confront it directly. Instead, he'll give you the silent treatment without reason. He'll act overly friendly with other women when you're around, hoping you'll notice. He'll monitor your social media like it's his only lifeline to you, but never say a word about it. He's not trying to manipulate you. He's trying to manage himself. The emotions he can't name, the insecurity he won't confess, and the attachment he's too afraid to admit out loud. Many women miss these signs because they don't come in the form of confessions or confrontation. They come in the form of pauses, of mismatched words and actions, of overreactions disguised as understatements. But once you know what to look for, they're impossible to unsee. Because when a man is falling for you, whether he's said it or not, jealousy becomes his accidental truth. It leaks out in the way he looks at you, listens to you, distances himself from you, or tries to pull you closer without explanation. And the real beauty lies not in the drama, but in the silence, in the things he doesn't say, but can no longer hide. In the list that follows, we're pulling back the curtain on 13 of the most hidden, yet powerful signs that a man is jealous, even when he pretends not to be. Each one might seem small on its own, but together, they reveal something bigger. He's not just watching, he's feeling. Quietly, deeply, and maybe more than he's ready to admit. 1. He suddenly becomes quiet when you mention another guy. He suddenly becomes quiet when you mention another guy. You might not even realize it at first. It starts with a shift in his tone, a pause in the conversation, or a glance away that lingers a little too long. One moment, he's laughing with you, engaged and open, and the next, the atmosphere changes, not with anger or confrontation, but with silence. That silence speaks volumes. You may mention a coworker who helped you with a project, or a childhood friend who texted you after years. And in that moment, he stops responding with the same warmth. His nod feels forced. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. He pretends is not affected, that it's nothing. But deep inside, something stirred. Jealousy doesn't always come with dramatic arguments or accusations. Sometimes, it hides in the stillness. Sometimes, it shows up in how a man withdraws, as if he's trying not to let you see what he's feeling. He might change the subject quickly or scroll through his phone, pretending he didn't hear you. He might even try to act casual, saying something sarcastic or brushing it off. But you'll notice the difference in how present he suddenly becomes, less of how the energy shifts. It's not about control. It's about emotion. That quiet reaction reveals that he sees you as important, that your attention matters to him, and the idea of sharing it with someone else, even if harmless, unsettles him. Jealousy in a man who doesn't want to appear possessive often takes this form. He won't say he's upset. He may not even fully understand why his mood changed. But his silence is the space where his hidden emotions live. It's the language of a heart trying to protect itself without exposing too much. So next time he grows quiet after a passing mention of another guy, pause and notice. Not because you owe him explanation, but because you're witnessing something raw, the subtle proof that he cares more than he wants to admit. 2. He mocks or downplays people you spend time with. It may come off as playful at first, a teasing comment here, a sarcastic remark there. He might roll his eyes when you mention a male friend, or joke that he doesn't seem all that smart, even if he's never actually met the person. This mocking isn't always loud or obvious. In fact, it often hides behind humor. But beneath the jokes is a deeper emotional reaction: jealousy. When a man feels emotionally attached but isn't ready to admit it, he may try to undermine anyone he sees as a possible threat. Instead of saying, "I feel insecure about him," or "I don't like how close you are," he masks it by downplaying them. He might call someone you work with "that dude with no ambition," or refer to a longtime friend as just another guy who's into you. It's not because he genuinely dislikes them. It's because their presence makes him feel vulnerable. By mocking the people you spend time with, he's trying to convince both himself and you that they are not important. It's a way of gaining emotional control without showing his hand. He may not even be fully aware he's doing it, but the pattern reveals itself over time. The more affection or respect you express for someone else, the more he tries to minimize their value. And it's not always about men, either. If he sees you growing close to anyone, someone who takes your attention, someone who gets your laughter, he may feel the urge to comment. The mocking becomes a shield for his insecurity. It allows him to express discomfort without having to say, "I'm scared I'm losing your attention." What makes this sign so subtle is that it often blends into everyday conversation. But if you listen closely, you'll notice the shift. His tone tightens, the sarcasm increases, and he masks his emotional attachment by belittling the people who matter to you. It's not about them. It's about how deeply you matter to him. 3. He randomly brings up your male friends in unrelated conversations. You'll be talking about your day, your plans for the weekend, or something completely unrelated, like your favorite movie or what you had for lunch, and suddenly, his comment includes someone you weren't even thinking about, a male friend. "Did you go with Daniel again?" he might ask, even if you never mentioned Daniel. Or while discussing your gym routine, he might casually say, "Is that the same gym your friend James goes to?" It seems random, unnecessary, slightly out of place. But that's exactly why it matters. These unexpected mentions aren't coincidences, they are clues. They reveal that your male friends occupy space in his thoughts more than he wants to admit. When a man is emotionally attached and unsure of where he stands with you, he can't help but keep tabs on the people he views as potential competition. His mind fixates on them, even when his words try to sound casual. He brings them up not always to argue, but to feel reassured. He's listening for your tone, watching your expression, trying to gauge your reaction. Are you too quick to defend them? Do you talk about them with too much excitement? Do you correct him softly or laugh it off? He's reading between the lines because he doesn't know how to ask what he really wants to know. Is there something between you two? Should I be worried? Sometimes, he may pretend it's a joke, mentioning your friend with a smirk or mock suspicion. Other times, he'll act like it's a passing thought. But it's not passing. It's persistent. It stays in the back of his mind because he feels something for you, and the idea of another man being close to you feels like a silent threat to his unspoken hope. When he keeps bringing them up for no reason, don't just focus on the name he mentions. Focus on what his heart is trying to say through silence. "I care about you more than I can admit, and I don't know how to handle the thought of losing you." 4. His mood shifts when you get attention from others. At first, it might seem like coincidence. You're laughing at a joke someone else made, and suddenly he goes quiet. A stranger compliments your smile, and he starts scrolling his phone or changes the subject abruptly. A coworker texts you something light-hearted, and his tone cools ever so slightly. These changes are subtle, but not accidental. His energy dips. His responses become shorter, and the warmth in his voice may momentarily fade. Why? Because whether he says it aloud or not, attention directed toward you from someone else makes something tighten inside him. When a man is emotionally attached but hasn't fully expressed his feelings, he may not know how to process the wave of jealousy that comes with watching others admire you. It triggers a quiet fear. Fear that is not enough, fear that you'll be taken, or fear that he doesn't have the right to express how much he wants to be the one you smile for. So instead of speaking up, his body and mood speak for him. He might not say anything hurtful. In fact, he may try to act unaffected, to remain cool or indifferent. But watch closely. The shift is there. He becomes distracted, less engaged, or sometimes even distant. It's his way of emotionally pulling back to protect himself, to create a buffer between what he feels and what he thinks is allowed to feel. He's still watching you, but now through a filter of insecurity he won't admit exists. Sometimes, his mood shift shows up as sarcasm or teasing. Other times, it's just silence. But underneath it all is the same quiet truth. Your happiness with someone else, even for a moment, shakes something in him has been trying to keep hidden. He may not know how to fight for your attention openly, but his reaction reveals that it matters deeply to him. Because when a man's mood shifts like that, it means your smile doesn't just brighten the room, it defines his place in it. 5. He jokes about you replacing him. It might sound like a passing comment, light-hearted, casual, coated in laughter. He'll say something like, "Guess I'm being replaced," or "Don't forget about us little people when you upgrade," when you talk about spending time with someone else or achieving something big. He might even say, "I bet your new gym buddy is way cooler than me," with a chuckle, trying to make it seem like he's kidding. But beneath that joke lies something much more real: fear. When a man is emotionally attached but not ready to admit it, he sometimes lets his insecurities leak out through humor. These types of jokes aren't truly about being funny. They're about testing the waters. He's watching how you respond. Do you reassure him? Do you laugh it off? Do you change the subject? Each reaction tells him something about how close you really are and whether or not he's at risk of losing you to someone else or to life's growing distance. These jokes are soft confession. They allow him to express a vulnerable fear, the fear of not being good enough, of being left behind, of being replaced, without having to come right out and say it, because to say it directly would expose how much he cares. So he wraps it in sarcasm and calls it humor. But if you listen closely, it's not always funny. It's fragile. It's quietly honest. You might notice that he only makes these jokes after you've talked about a new guy you met, a big success in your life, or a situation where he feels like he's losing emotional ground. The humor becomes a defense, a way to speak what's in his heart without the risk of rejection. So the next time he says, "Looks like I've been replaced," don't just hear the joke. Hear what he's really asking. Am I still important to you? Because when a man who never shows his emotions starts joking about being left behind, it's not comedy. It's a silent confession dressed in a smile. 6. He starts giving you the silent treatment for no reason. Everything seems fine one moment. The conversation is flowing, the connection is easy, and you feel close. Then suddenly, without warning, he withdraws. He becomes distant, cold, unavailable. You replay your last few interactions, trying to figure out what went wrong. Did you say something? Did you miss something? But nothing adds up, and that's exactly what makes it confusing. There's no obvious reason, just silence. When a man is emotionally attached but doesn't know how to process his feelings, especially jealousy, fear, or insecurity, silence becomes his armor. It's not that he wants to hurt you. It's that he's hurting silently. Maybe something triggered him, a passing comment, a photo you posted, or even the way you smiled at someone else. But instead of talking about it, he shuts down. Because to speak it out loud would mean admitting how much you matter to him, and that kind of vulnerability can be terrifying. The silent treatment, in this case, isn't about punishment. It's about emotional overwhelm. He doesn't know how to express the storm inside him, so he chooses silence as his shield. And in that silence, he waits, hoping you'll notice, hoping you'll reach out, maybe even hoping you'll read between the lines and realize what he's afraid to say. I'm scared to lose you. I don't know where I stand with you, and it hurts more than I expected. This kind of silence doesn't come with closure. It's the kind that lingers in unread messages and long pauses between calls. It leaves you wondering, overthinking, questioning, because that's exactly what he's doing too. He's not angry. He's anxious. He's not disinterested. He's too emotionally tangled to act normal. So when he starts giving you the silent treatment for no clear reason, understand, it's not always about control. Sometimes, It's about care. Deep, conflicted, unspoken care. And though he may never say it out loud, the silence itself becomes a message. You matter more than I know how to handle. 7. He subtly criticizes your appearance when you dress up. You put extra effort into your look. Maybe it's a new dress, a bold lipstick, or just a different hairstyle. You feel good, confident, glowing. But instead of complimenting you, he pauses. He looks you up and down and says something like, "That's different," or "Isn't that a bit much for where you're going?" He might even chuckle and say, "Trying to impress someone." At first, it seems like a harmless comment. Maybe he's just teasing. But deep down, there's a different emotion behind it: jealousy and insecurity. When a man is emotionally attached to you but hasn't fully admitted it, he often reacts to your confidence with subtle jabs instead of praise. Not because he doesn't find you attractive, but because the idea of you being noticed by someone else triggers something raw in him. This kind of criticism is never loud or direct. He won't insult you. Instead, he wraps it in vague concern, sarcasm, or passive remarks. But the intent is always the same: to plant doubt in your mind. Why? Because when you step into your power, when you dress up, feel radiant, and carry yourself with confidence, he feels a loss of control. He worries that someone else will see what he sees, and that you'll drift away. So he tries to dull your shine, just a little, hoping it keeps you close. These remarks are his way of expressing discomfort with the attention you might receive. He won't say, "I don't want other men looking at you," because that would expose too much. Instead, he says, "You're wearing that," hoping it achieves the same result without showing his hand. It's not truly about the clothes, or the lipstick, or the heels. It's about how you look when you're confident, and how that makes him feel vulnerable. So the next time he subtly criticizes your appearance, don't just hear his words. Hear the insecurity behind them. He's not judging you. He's afraid of losing you to a world that's beginning to notice what he already knows: you're stunning. 8. He monitors your social media more than usual. He doesn't say much about your posts, but somehow, he's always one of the first to view your stories. He never comments, but he watches every reel. He might not hit like on your photos, but he remembers what you wore, where you were, and who was with you. He casually brings up things you only mentioned online, making it clear he's been quietly paying attention. And if you post a picture with someone else, especially a guy, his response is slower, his tone shifts, or his mood cools without warning. When a man is emotionally attached but not ready to admit it, he often expresses that attachment in the digital space, where he can observe without being seen. Social media becomes his window into your world, a way to stay connected without having to reveal how much he actually cares. Watching your stories gives him a sense of closeness. Checking your likes, comments, and captions becomes a habit, not because he's controlling, but because he's emotionally invested. He might not even realize how often he's checking your page. He's just drawn to you. And the more uncertain he feels about where he stands in your life, the more he relies on silent clues: who you're spending time with, what you're posting, how you caption your photos. It's not just curiosity. It's concern. It's emotional insecurity masked as casual scrolling. Sometimes, he reacts by posting something in return: a subtle picture, a cryptic status, a throwback that seems oddly timed. He's trying to get your attention without saying so, trying to matter without making it obvious. And when you don't notice, or when you post something that stays his jealousy, his silence may return, or he might seem distant again. This pattern is one of the clearest hidden signs of emotional attachment. Because when a man monitors your social media more than usual, he's not just watching what you share. He's searching for reassurance, connection, and silent proof that he still matters in your world, even if he can't bring himself to say it out loud. 9. He shows up unexpectedly where you are. You didn't tell him you'd be there. Maybe you mentioned it once in passing, a casual reference to your favorite cafe, a friend's birthday gathering, or a weekend hangout spot. And suddenly, there he is. He acts surprised, says something like, "Didn't expect to see you here," or "Small world, huh?" But deep down, you know it wasn't a coincidence. When a man is emotionally attached to you but isn't ready to voice it, he often looks for ways to be near you, without making it too obvious. Showing up where you are becomes his silent way of staying connected. He might rationalize it to himself. Maybe he really did need a coffee, or he was just in the neighborhood. But the truth is, he hoped to see you, maybe even planned for it, because your presence gives him comfort, even when he's unsure how to express what he's feeling. He doesn't always linger or demand your time. Sometimes it's just a wave, a short conversation, or a quiet glance across the room. But that moment, that shared space, is enough for him to feel closer to you. And he leaves with more than he came for, a reminder that you're still real, still within reach, still part of his orbit. He won't say, "I came here hoping to see you." That would reveal too much. Instead, he keeps it light, casual, playful. But underneath the surface, he's fighting feelings he can't fully control. His random appearances are his way of navigating emotional closeness, testing whether you're happy to see him, whether he still has a place in your world, whether the door to something more is still open. When a man shows up where you are without a clear reason, don't underestimate the meaning. It's not just convenience. It's a quiet form of pursuit, a gentle, wordless way of saying, "I wanted to be where you are, even if I'm not brave enough to tell you why." 10. He asks indirect questions about who you're texting. You're on your phone, smiling at a message or replying quickly to someone, and out of nowhere he casually asks, "Busy chatting?" or "Who's keeping you so entertained?" He doesn't ask directly, never something as obvious as, "Who are you texting?" Instead, he wraps his curiosity in humor, sarcasm, or light teasing. But underneath that casual tone is a real desire to know, and maybe a subtle insecurity. When a man is emotionally attached to you but hasn't fully admitted it to himself or to you, he becomes hypersensitive to where your attention is going. And when that attention shifts to your phone, to someone else, it stays something inside him. He starts wondering, is she texting someone more important than me? Is she smiling like that for someone else? Am I being replaced? But instead of being direct, he chooses the safer route. A half joke, a passing comment, a vague question. It allows him to ask without exposing too much. He wants information, but not at the cost of his pride. So he plays it cool, but the tone gives him away. His eyes linger a second too long on your screen. He watches your reaction closely. He's not just curious, he's gauging your attachment. Sometimes, these questions come with a smile. Sometimes, with a sudden shift in mood. If you brush him off or answer vaguely, he might pretend it doesn't matter. But it does. Because in that small moment, he's measuring his place in your life. And when you reassure him, even subtly, he lights up inside, though he'll never say it. This behavior may seem small, but it speaks volumes. A man who isn't emotionally invested won't notice who you're texting. But a man who cares, deeply, silently, will find ways to ask, even when he doesn't know how to say, "I hope it's me. I want to be the reason behind your smile." 11. He suddenly wants more of your time and attention. At first, things felt balanced. You talked when you could, saw each other occasionally, shared space without pressure. Then, without any major change in circumstances, he starts texting more often. He calls at random times just to check in. He asks if you're free tonight, or tomorrow, or the day after. He lingers longer in conversations, takes interest in small details of your day, and subtly begins to fill more of your schedule. It's not demanding, but it's noticeably more frequent. This shift isn't about boredom or loneliness. It's about quiet emotional urgency. When a man is emotionally attached but hasn't voiced it clearly, one of the first signs is that he starts craving your presence more intensely. He doesn't always know why. He just knows that time with you feels better than time without you. And so, he starts creating opportunities to stay close. He may not say, "I miss you," or "I need more of your attention," but his actions will show it. He'll send you memes more often. He'll invite you along to errands, suggest small hangouts, or drop hints about things you should do together, even if it's something simple like watching a movie or grabbing lunch. He may even start acting slightly restless when you're busy or take longer than usual to reply. This isn't just about wanting companionship. It's about emotional comfort. Being around you feels safe, exciting, grounding, all at once. And the more he feels it, the more he fears losing it. So without realizing it, he starts reaching for you more often. Not in loud or desperate ways, but in subtle, consistent ones. And if you suddenly pull back or get busier, you might notice his behavior shift. He may get quieter, moody, or even pretend he doesn't care. But it's a defense. Because underneath all that effort to stay cool is one quiet truth. He's falling deeper, and he doesn't want to feel like you're slipping away. 12. He acts overly friendly with other women when you're around. You're in the same room, maybe at a gathering, work event, or casual meetup, and suddenly, his attention shifts. Not toward you, but toward another woman. He becomes extra chatty, laughs louder than usual, compliments her in ways that seem just a little too generous. You watch him become the life of the conversation, but something feels off. It's not natural. It's performative. It's for your eyes. When a man is emotionally attached to you but unsure where he stands or afraid to show it, he may try to trigger a reaction by directing his energy towards someone else. Not because he's genuinely interested, but because he wants to see if you are. If you'll notice. If you'll care. If you'll show the same jealousy he secretly feels when you interact with other men. It's a quiet, emotional test. He wants to measure how much space he occupies in your heart, without having to ask. So he exaggerates his friendliness. He becomes too polite, too complimentary, too quick to engage in conversation with other women. It's not always flirtation. Sometimes, it's just visibility. He wants you to see him as desirable, not to others, but to you. Because deep down, he hopes it will push you closer. Ironically, while he's pretending not to care, his actions are full of emotion. The way he checks to see if you're watching. The slight tension in his body when you don't respond. The way he tries to sneak glances your way, even as he talks to someone else. It's all part of a silent, insecure dance. A mix of pride, vulnerability, and longing. He doesn't want to lose you, but is too afraid to say what he really feels. So instead, he tries to make you feel something first. And the moment he sees your mood shift, your tone tighten, your eyes flicker, that's when he knows you care. And that knowledge is his quiet reassurance that maybe, just maybe, he still matters to you more than you let on. 13. He pretends not to care but listens closely to every detail. He shrugs when you talk about your plans. Nods half-heartedly when you mention someone new. Acts like he's barely paying attention when you tell a story. But later, sometimes hours, sometimes days, he brings up something you said word for word. Something you didn't think he even noticed. That's how you know. When a man is emotionally attached but trying to hide it, he becomes a quiet observer. On the surface, he plays it cool, distracted, distant, indifferent. But underneath that calm exterior, his mind is collecting every word, every detail, every name. He hears more than you think. He remembers more than he lets on. And when you least expect it, it shows. Maybe he mentions your favorite coffee order in passing, or recalls the name of a friend you only brought up once. Maybe he reminds you of something you said weeks ago, a dream, a deadline, a random offhand comment you barely remember making. That's not coincidence. That's emotional focus disguised as disinterest. He pretends not to care, because caring out loud feels risky. If he reacts too strongly, he fears you'll seem too eager, too invested, too exposed. So instead, he listens. Quietly, deeply, and his attention becomes the way he stays connected, without showing his cards. It's in the way he notices when your tone changes. The way he pauses when you mention something emotional. The way he never forgets the things that matter to you, even when he acts like he's barely involved. This kind of listening is its own love language. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, consistent, intentional. And it reveals what he's too guarded to say. You matter to me. I hear you, even when I pretend not to. And every piece of you, your words, your world, your worries, stays with me. So the next time he acts like he doesn't care but remembers the little things, know this, that's not forgetfulness. That's emotional attachment, deeply rooted, carefully hidden, and quietly powerful.